for making this far.
What's up, everybody? If you are a college football fan like me, if you know a college football fan that's in your life, you need to go cop this shirt. New designs dropping all the time. It's the perfect gift with the holiday season coming around. If you don't have this thing, you're missing out. Great material, great fabric. I wear it all the time. Go get yours today.
Welcome back to The Pocket with myself, Brandon Bell, Christian Hackenberg. Appreciate you guys. Happy New Year's to all. First pod of 2024, brother. How you doing?
I'm feeling all right. I mean, I'm feeling good outside of the Penn State football side of things, but had a great New Year's. My wife and I had our night out. We got a sitter for the baby, so it was the first, I think, mom and dad night out. So it was a good way to kick in the new year. But, dude, man, been a good year. Very happy with State Media. Very happy with The Pocket, doing this with you, man. So a little bit of reflecting on that, and excited for what 2024 in the future has. So
for sure, I can echo that. Maybe we end this off with a little reflections of the past year, but other than that, you touched on it. You know, the Penn State side of us not feeling too great right now after the Peach Bowl, but New Year's, comes to New Year's 6 bowl games, playoffs. Obviously, Penn State first time in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl down in Atlanta. And, man, let's get into it. I mean, obviously not the outcome we all wanted, but it was a big moment. And, there was a lot riding. I won't say there was a lot riding on it. We touched on it a few pods ago. I think it meant more to us. Maybe that's our bias. Obviously Ole Miss, Hotty Toddy would say the same thing. But,
yeah.
Where do you want to start off with this game? You want to start high, on the highs?
Listen, man, I think when you just look at it like broad stroke, right? Like I'm gonna look at all the New Year's 6 bowls outside of the semifinal games, right? Like I think there's a lot of different moving parts that I think us as college football fans aren't necessarily as used to. Like I know the opt-out thing started back with Christian McCaffrey and it's been around for a minute, but
right.
I feel like this year, and I don't know why, it just seemed to magnify things. Maybe it was the addition of the transfer portal, and we kind of touched on just the timing of how we open up the transfer portal, and it's so like knee-jerk reactionary, and there's kids there, so they're not available for games. It's just, I feel like it was like too many avenues open for kids not to play, and I think it affected all these games. And, us talking about the Penn State game specifically leading up to it, we only had Chop publicly not playing. Had some guys who declared for the draft, but we're going to play. And, I think that the communication, maybe for fans, at least it's been a theme in the mailbag, was lacking from that side of things. But, it's hard because, again, I could have never done it. I've said this a million times, but I understand why players make that decision. It sucks for fans. It really does. But like I said, I just feel like it really impacted games top to bottom. You look at the Florida State game. I don't know how much it really changes the outcome of that game, but it's not an absolute ass kicking on national television. And just for the optics, it's still a New Year's 6 bowl game. The history of those types of games, the optics were a little eh. And then, obviously you had the semifinal games, which were 2 fantastic games. And I think everyone talks about, the College Football Playoff Committee getting it right.
Right.
I think Georgia has something to say about that. But ultimately, I think they did a really good job. And I was pleased as hell with those matchups. I mean, Michael Penix looked fantastic. Quinn Ewers started a little slow, but came back and battled. So you saw kind of the battle of 2 great offenses, and then you saw the battle of 2 great defenses and a little bit of late game magic from Michigan. So I mean, overall I was impressed. And then kind of to go back into your initial question about us, the highs, I thought we started fast. And I just wish really that we could have kept that intensity.
Yeah, I know.
We came out of the gates smoking. You really got to punch the first one in, I think, for points. But we kind of did the same thing against Michigan offensively. But I know that's a super long-winded way of kind of rounding about the whole schedule. But, yeah, I mean, really for me, like the positives where we came out punching. But it just seemed like after that we were kind of going through the motions, Yeah,
no, 100%. That's, look at watching those other games you just spoke on. That's kind of what I was looking at comparing everything to us, because that's, who I root for, is that exactly what you said, that competitive edge just remaining throughout the whole game. Like you said, came out hot, whether the scripted plays, whatever you want to call it, offensively and the defensively. But then, we lawed off a little bit, and you see that's where Ole Miss's, kind of killer instinct, whatever you want to call it, really kicked in. And obviously against a good team, you can't afford those lulls. So I know we're gonna go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I will say this too. I think I may have said it on one of the preview episodes. Like, I thought we did a good job, at least for the first quarter, second quarter, of like making Jackson Dart beat us. They were struggling getting their run game going. Eventually they started getting some perimeter stuff going, and it helped them stay on schedule and take a little bit of pressure off Jackson. But like, I said, that kid was either going to win or lose the game, and I don't want to take anything away from him. I mean, he balled, dude. He came out and did it. So, it's kind of one of those things too, where you got to kind of tip your hat to the kid for how he played. And, I think he announced he's coming back. So that's a big get for Lane Kiffin and those guys going into the offseason. I don't want to be too big of a homer, but I do want to make that point. Like, obviously some opt-outs in the defensive back end may or may not have affected that wholeheartedly, but he played really, really well. And, it's tough to beat a team when the kid's playing with that type of confidence.
No, 100%. I mean, you said it, some of our corners were down, but outside of maybe a few plays, he was just putting the ball on the money on a lot of those throws. And I'm right with you. That was one of my main notes from the game as I'm watching. I mean, that kid was playing quarterback. I mean, he was balling. I wasn't too familiar with this game, the little Shaq meme, but I'm familiar now. And like you said, hats off to him. He played a hell of a game, made a lot of, big time throws. I honestly could say he might have made himself some money last night. I know he's coming back for college, but I think, next year when he comes out, obviously depending on how he plays the rest of next season, but if he plays like how he played against us, I mean, he looks like a real, draft pick.
Well, now he still might have made himself some money with this NFL market.
I don't know. You're right. Yeah. Endorsements, I'm sure, will come in, tenfold, even more.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So what negatively, like, because I think we do need to touch on this too. Like, I know I kind of touched on like just the intensity and not keeping it throughout the four quarters. To me, like a big turning point in that game was, and it's something that I don't think a lot of people have talked about, is I was watching this right before halftime. We get the ball back with like a minute and 15 seconds left.
Yeah.
I think we're down 3 at the time or whatever. And like, that's the whole reason why you defer for moments like that, right? Like we had 3 timeouts, we had the ball back. Like, I was fully expecting a full-on attack 2 minute, like let's start pushing the ball, let's get a positive first play, let's go. We run it on the first down, and then like we don't bang a timeout, run 20 seconds off the clock, and it was just like at that point I was like, oh man. Like I was like, why is it not any sense of urgency? Because you had a great opportunity to double up. You know what I mean? Right. You're getting the ball out of halftime. You had to score. You never know what type of momentum that carries into halftime. And then, consequently, we come out and go 2-3 and outs starting the second half. Like, that's just those like small momentum plays that I think we know as guys who've been in the locker room, been in games, been in the heat of the battle like that. Like those types of things not only boost your offense's confidence, your defense's confidence, everybody, right? You're like, oh man, like we won the game of football, the strategy of football. Like we did exactly what we're supposed to do. Deferred, doubled up. Here we go. Completely different ball game heading into the second half. And I think that was a missed opportunity for us. And then really from that point on, I think that kind of like mental lull and draw, we could never climb out of it. And that's what sucks. You really want to see somebody in the, whether it's a coaching staff or a player, like try to pull guys out of it. I didn't see it, man. It just looked very complacent.
Yeah, 100%. And I have my notes here. Throw your punches, 2-minute drill, not the bet. And we've kind of been throwing that analogy out there all season, a boxing match and things of that nature, but that's exactly what it is. You like to see, the squad throw their punches in that 2-minute drill. I mean, it's the last game of the year. You're not playing for anything more than today. in 2023 season. So throw your punches, and it can be frustrating because we've seen them show flashes of that, whether it's Drew dropping back, offensively scheming things up. We've seen flashes, but it hasn't been consistent enough to where, everyone's kind of all on board. Like, hey, let's go down here and double up. Exactly like you said. Let's go double up, get the ball back, put it on them again. Defense 3 and out, win the third quarter. Like you say, we're just not quite seeing that. And that probably is my main low. I mean, I know you talked about the opt-outs. I don't pay too much stock in that. As a player, I know obviously you have all-American talent that's not playing, and it does make a difference. But I put myself in the shoes of the guy behind him or whoever it may be. It's like, hey, I don't give a rat's ass. I'm B-Bell. I'm going to go out here and play my ass off against Ole Miss, put my name out there, X, Y, and Z. So that's how I look at everything. But it is tough. A lot of talent didn't play. Right.
But to that point, though, like, I agree with you. We talked about how deep this roster was. Like that, not just us, but the coaching staff, like everybody's talked about how deep this roster was starting from week 1. So, it is one of those things where it's like, man, those reps and the game live reps are really important. But like at the same time, you got a young guy coming in, but he's got a lot of talent. And I feel like there's a lot of onus on the staff to go, okay, like we have to deal with these things, whether it's Theo Johnson or Olu being on a pitch count or whatever. Like these guys had a month to prepare for this. And I find it really hard to believe that the coaching staff found out that a lot of these players were holding out like game week. Right. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I don't have a problem with Coach Franklin keeping that tight to vest because I think there's probably some strategy with that. Sorry fans, but there's probably some strategy with that with Ole Miss, right? Like we got to prepare for these guys. We got to prepare for these guys.
Lane Kiffin was ears out to every little thing Franklin and what player was playing and not playing.
Yeah, I mean he was congratulating Chop Robinson. It's like there was probably some gamesmanship with that, but and like I said, I got no problem doing that. But at the same token, you expect the other guys to have had ample time to get ready, and obviously, there's going to be some growing turns. But I think that's where you, as a staff, put them in positions where they can be a little bit more successful with the understanding that they don't have all those game reps under their belt as a Kalen King or a Johnny Dixon. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, I guess. But I also don't really necessarily buy that excuse either for us,
Yeah. There's as much as I said, I get it. It was all-American talent that did not play. As a player, I'm not buying it. You can't because at the end of the day, you line up with your 11 and I line up with mine, and we play ball since we were 5 years old to whatever age you stop playing. That's what it is. Guys out there playing ball. So I don't really pay too much stock in that either. I can confidently say, as a program, as a fan base, we all need to improve from every position, every top down, and there's nothing wrong with that. Clearly, we have national championship expectations. So until we make that happen, there's room to improve. And for the fans, I think everyone can still kind of hold your horses. Let's calm down because at the end of the day, we saw how these games played out. There's only 2 teams, and only one team wins it out of 200 or however many FBS schools there are. So didn't quite end the year off on a bang like last year beating Utah, but there's room for improvement.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that the one thing I hope we attack, because I think that there were reoccurring themes with these 3 games that we lost, at least offensively. And again, I think it kind of like mistakes happen. Bad play calls happen. Players make bad plays every once in a while. Like these things all happen throughout a game, and you have to be able to overcome those types of things. But I think the consistent theme was just that level of intensity for these larger games, right? And like that, I feel like great teams expect to win week in, week out. And I feel like some of these larger games, we had a little bit of like hesitancy, if that makes sense. There wasn't Like, it wasn't like us against the world type of mentality. And I know, like, I was never really a player like that resonated with me, but like something similar to that was like, I was a competitor. Like, if you put me out there, even if the world and I knew that I was shorthanded in some way, shape, or form in this fight, like, it wasn't a thought in terms of how I attacked. Like, I was still in full attack mode for 4 quarters, and I emptied the tank. And if it was enough, great. If it wasn't, great. I still left it all out there. I emptied the tank, and we'll move on and learn from it. And that's what practice and all that stuff's for. So, like, for me, it was just like this weird feeling in all these games where there was like hesitancy, and they were like dipping their toe in the water, and there was no real kill in the players. And I said this, I think that starts from the top. So I think for me, I just want to see that be a point of emphasis this offseason. And as much as this loss sucks, and as much as the expectation we had coming into this was a lot different, I think it tempers all of our expectations for 2024, right? And I think that's a unique opportunity for this team, because they're not going to have the expectations they had coming into this year. There's going to be a lot of naysayers and a lot of doubters, and it gives you that opportunity to kind of work in silence, work in the shadows, and correct the things that need to be corrected, and really, really play like you have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? And I think that's what you have to do. I think the Michigan team did it. You know what I mean? You're talking about the number 1 team in the country. They had things rolling. Like, they fourth and 2, kind of in that weird 4th and 1 in that weird fringe area. Like, they just played like they didn't have anything to lose, and like they expected to win that game, and they were destined to win that game. And like, I just feel like
what happened.
Yeah, I feel like every time we step in the ring in these types of games, Ole Miss game included, like with like talent, there was hesitancy, there was fear of making a mistake, and fear of doing, and it's like almost that fear inhibits you from even playing to your potential, which is even worse than, I think, screwing up at 1,000 miles an hour, trying to make something happen. So
that's literally paralysis by analysis. And I hadn't heard that until I made it in the NFL, and it made all the sense. And it happened to me. I'm a guy, undrafted. I can't make a mistake. I can't miss this block on kickoff return, or I'm going to be out of here.
Drafted, dude. So like, don't even think it's just a guy who's not, like, it happened to me big time, So I know exactly what you're saying.
I mean, it happened. We could talk to every player, which we have one of our proud alum, Baller, coming in as well. I want to get to him. But yeah, man, that's what happens when you see the talent and it's not going full throttle. And it's like, why, and that's exactly what it is. So, but nonetheless, I want to get to our guy, Steph Morris, coming in, former cornerback, Letterman, Penn State, all-around captain of a guy. I remember coming up, getting recruited, seeing this guy ball out, number 12 out there, definitely a chippy guy. We talk about that attack mentality.
That's all that DMV is, though, man. Steph's cousin, Jordan Smith, came in with us. Same guy. They got them DMV boys coming in. Oh, man. So I'm stoked about this. It's been a long time coming. We've been talking about it. So
Steph, my guy, once again, everyone from the pocket. We have Steph Morris here, former Letterman cornerback, rocking the 12. Now lives down in Atlanta and was present at the Peach Bowl game. Want to get your thoughts, man. Give us your highs and lows of what you saw. Obviously came up short for the boys in blue and white, but give us your highs and lows of the game.
Yeah, I guess the high for me would probably be the fact that I didn't have to travel. The fact that the Peach Bowl was, of course, in town, so I was able to take a 20-minute Uber there. The lows was we didn't get the result. Me living in SEC country, these fans are, pretty annoying. I try to, preach the Big Ten as much as possible, especially Penn State. It doesn't go too far. The fact that we couldn't get it done in SEC country, of course, is probably the biggest low. That's pretty much it, man. We was lacking something. I think we all, as former players, we all know that we were lacking. I wouldn't even say the players, man. It was just different, just being in the stands and being at the game. And this is actually my first time, like, in the crowd. I'm usually, if I go to a game, I'm on the sideline. So I was in the crowd and, getting that type of experience. And it just didn't seem as if, we had the energy, amongst each other in the crowd. We started off with energy, of course. The crowd was somewhat into it. It just felt off the entire day, to be honest.
It's funny. We touched on it. Like our high was we at least started fast. I think on both sides of the ball. But what got me was every single time this year we've played either like or better or quote whatever you want to say, better talent. I think like talent across the board. Whether it's Michigan, Ohio State. When you looked at us on paper, we're pretty even, right?
Equal.
With the exception of a couple things here or there, right? But what got me was it just never seemed like for all three of these games we were throwing punches in a competitive nature to win the game. It always seemed like there was some type of hesitancy where whether it was offensively, we couldn't push the ball vertically down the field or score points. So we were trying to chase things that really weren't there. Like it just seems like when we stepped in the arena, there was something that was limiting us from letting it all loose and playing freely, which is almost worse to me than going 1,000 miles an hour and making some mistakes and being able to go, you know what? Kids left it all out there. Coaching staff left it all out there, but we came up short. We made too many mistakes, this and that. It's like when I'm watching it as a former player and with the guys that I play with, like we still would swing and run on E. And if we emptied the tank and it wasn't in our favor, it was kind of like, hey, they got us, right? Tip of the cap, go ahead. It just seems like in all three of these games, and that was the only theme that really bothered me this year, was there was some type of hesitancy, and you could read it with some of these guys. Like I think Drew really wears it on his sleeve in these games, just me being a quarterback analyzing that position. But really this game, it felt like that. And to me, the turning point was that right before halftime, minute and like 15 seconds left, we had a chance to go down and double up, you know what I mean? Which is why you defer. Yeah. And, we run the ball. We got 3 timeouts. We run the ball on first down and we let 20 seconds run off the clock. And then it's 2 conservative plays. We punt. We go to halftime down 3. It's like, that's why you do that. And then it compounds by us going 3 and out 2 times. And then it was just like we could never get out of that rut. So
we have the bend but don't break mentality. I would definitely say probably O State, Michigan game. I kind of see why. You kind of want to keep it close. We got a top 5 defense. Let the other team make a mistake and let us capitalize. I think for this game specifically, the fact that we had, guys drop off for whatever reason, I think it's the game where you kind of just let it go. It's a bowl game. Of course, you want to come with the win, but you also want to see what exactly are we going to bring back next year, because the guys that's playing, those are the guys that's going to be there for spring ball, Yeah. So for me, I was more so looking to see Drew take the next step. And I get it. It's kind of tough when, you're lacking, just the explosive pieces on offense, more so in the hash and outside the numbers with the receivers. But I think this is a game where I really got to watch and just wanted to see him, just be the guy, I was blessed enough to play with some good quarterbacks, not even quarterbacks, just good players in general, where, they made people around you better, regardless of whether they were good, bad. They brought them to, the likeness of what they are. So I wanted to see that from Drew. I'm not sure what exactly the game plan was during, bowl practices and going to the game. If they wanted to be conservative, I don't know. But I would love to have seen Drew, just going into, just coming 2024, give us some type of, I wouldn't say hope because, he's the future. He's now. But just give us something that we can hang our head on and be like, you know what? Yeah. We got USC, we got Washington, we got Oregon, all these guys coming to the conference. Michigan, Ohio State going to be there. Can we contend? With this current roster, and is he's the guy to lead us?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we talked about it before. There's nothing wrong. I know fans get all riled up, but it's clear that we have much improvement to do, and that's everyone, every position, every piece of coaching staff. We have room to improve. Quarterback, is not excluded from that. And I touched on it a few weeks ago, and maybe I'm being too light, too generous, but I weigh a lot on this was his first go around, really having the job. Turnover with the coaches, they say he took the firing of Yurcich very personal, things of that nature. And I know new schemes for a young player already is never really the easiest thing. So I kind of give him a little grace of like, okay, you've had this season on your belt. We would have loved to see in-season improvement. And I know me and Hack and I talked about this. But it's like, okay, now you see what more you need to do. Because he just didn't know. You don't know what it takes to be a starting quarterback in the Big Ten with the pressure of really the entire country, because Penn State fans are everywhere, on your head, on your back. You don't know until you know. Now he knows. And also playing up against, going against quarterbacks and these other teams. I take a lot of my lessons is learning from others' mistakes as well, not just your own, just watching the game. You're playing against a Jackson Dart, who we spoke on, who was lighting it up, who was doing the darn thing, like team on his back, throws are there, X, Y, and Z. So I look at that and I was like, okay, can he take all this knowledge he got from this year and turn it into, like you said, Big Ten is changing. You're the guy now. Unfortunately, there's no grace period. People don't give him grace like I do. There's no grace period of like, okay, it's his first year. No, Penn State needs to win now. And
it's a win now mentality.
What was that?
Yeah, it's a win now mentality, and unfortunately, we're in a time period where you can't redshirt, if that makes sense. Even if you don't redshirt, you just don't have the time or luxury with NIL and with these people spending this money to really sit or make excuses. So I think that's more so where I'm coming from. Me playing in the past, we didn't have NIL. You guys neither. We didn't have these glorious 5 stars I played under Joe Pa. So, he was big on, 3 stars, and we was getting it done with, far less talent than what this current roster have. So me being able to, when I got invited to a practice, and I think the biggest takeaway, because I went with Deion Butler, who's a former Letterman, and, the guys just kept saying, yeah, this guy here, he's 4'2", he's 4'3". Yeah, man, he can, he can bench this, he can bench that. And I'm just looking like, okay, but can he actually play football?
Right.
I think that's kind of maybe the motto now with this current Penn State team is, they're looking for guys that can, test off the wall. And I don't know. I'm just from that game, man, I didn't see a ton of like legit just football players. I see a lot of athletes, but at the end of the day, you got to be technically sound, and you got to be able to play football. Regardless, your ass can run a 4'2", 4'3", don't matter. And I'm speaking more so from a defensive back perspective. I get it. We had some guys that opted out last minute. You can just tell we was a little discombobulated on the back end, communication wise, which is normal. And to be fair to them, that's tough to be on that runway, first experience against SEC opponent like Ole Miss, and just seeing Lane Kiffin's reaction on the sideline, like he was animated. You can tell he wanted to win this game, and I'm not even sure how many dropouts that they had, but we was locking them in the back end, and we got the athletes, but at some point, we getting these top 10, top 15 recruiting classes. We got to be able to win these type of games.
Yeah. I mean, I'll go real quick. Am I wrong for not giving the guys the 2s and 3s more grace? Because right before you came on, we spoke on just like, or I said, I look at it as opportunity. Steph not playing. I've been getting time all year, but I'm about to start. Against an SEC opponent, like. Let's go. This is my time. And you'd hope that they're preparing the right way and everyone's being prepared the right way. But that part doesn't, it's not an excuse for me, for the guys, for the opt-outs and the guys stepping up.
I think it's a different day and time when you just talking about these athletes in general. We was put in that position. Of course, we're going to be ready. There's no money involved. So our outlet was to make a play, make multiple plays, get that starting job, do the best as possible so we can, get to the ultimate goal. Nowadays, you coming in, you sign NIL. I think you coming in with $50K at Penn State, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. So it's a different mentality. I was hard on the DBs during the game, and maybe I shouldn't have been, but that is tough to go into. You expect him, All-American corner to play. He opts out the day before, and you can just tell the communication was off, right? So that is tough. But to your point, me per se, yes, I would have been ready.
And
but
no
also
credit taken away from Ole Miss either. The guys they had on the outside were very good. Like you said, quarterback putting it on them. So I'm not saying it should have been a shutout. Just there's a lot of talk about.
We should have done better. We should have done better for sure.
Yeah,
we should have done better. But it's kind of the reason it's a tough task on the DBs because you guys play with the Godwins, the Hamlers of the world. They win against that every day.
Yeah.
Who exactly is our DBs going against in practice to have them ready? Because if you look at that game, we didn't have anybody on the outside that can look like they can separate or make a play in general. So that's why I think it was kind of a little tough for them younger guys to really prepare for what exactly Ole Miss had.
Changing speed.
Big difference.
And I thought Kiffin did a great job from a presentation standpoint, right? Like he didn't just line up and, for the most part, I mean, they threw slants to 9 like it was their job. Yeah. Like outside of that, though, some of the schemes, the presentations, the motioning to bunch, and then getting a bunch of, to your point, like the stuff that you get as a veteran DB, where like, oh, I saw this release before. This is what this means. Like these kids are just like, what's my rule? It's my rule. And, that's where you see the mistakes. And I thought Kiffin did a really good job of giving them 400 level presentation. And these kids are still, going to Econ 101 trying to figure it out,
Yeah. I know we lost Manny, and Manny is, he's going to live by the blitz, die by the blitz. We're going to play man, right?
Yeah.
But we don't have Manny. We got these young DBs. I would have loved from our coaching staff to help them out because, confidence is everything going into the offseason. And, I saw a lot of man-to-man still, as you mentioned. Kiffin did a great job to seeing exactly what we had with these motions. We're in man-to-man. I would have loved to have seen us, still send fire blitzes from a zone perspective. Just, we're struggling on the back end. Let's help these guys out. That way they can have zone eyes and they don't have to worry about so much of, going against, number 9, whoever the case may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Steph, give us a little life update, man. I think you're flying up and coaching high school ball with your pops, right?
Yeah, I do that every week during the season. Of course, he's in Washington, D.C. I reside in Atlanta. So that's weekly. He's at Eastern Senior High School. I actually just left the NFL roughly about 8 months ago. I was with them for the past 8 years. Managing all services as it relates to, just health, more so on the mental health side. I'm now in the IT field, handling like distribution to like global corporations with devices like Dell, Samsung, and that company's in Miami. So that's a quick update. Still got Prime Example. We got that both in DC as well as in Atlanta. Actually doing pretty well. Just the scope of Georgia is pretty competitive from a training perspective. Yeah. So I think I was a little more worried about that, bringing Prime Example to Georgia at first. But, cream always rises to the top. And I've been able to have a ton of success, early on with just training DBs from different high schools in different regions in the state.
I was getting ready to say, for anyone that doesn't know, listening to this, I'll give us a quick, you kind of said it right there, but I know we know what it is. Quick synopsis of what Prime Example. When you say Prime Example, what is that?
Prime Example, man. Prime Example it's a mentorship program, but it's more so heavily involved in training. Mentorship would be more so from like myself or some of the guys who may come by and speak, like a Jordan Smith or Mark Gonzalez. I'm speaking to the guys that's in the DC area. It's more so I know what I can be by what I see, and I saw the results that Marcus Allen did, what they put in, and I know exactly what I can be. But it's a mentorship program, training based, that resides in both, DC as well as Atlanta. And sometimes on a give and take, given weekend, we have multiple people come up from different fields, whether that's a doctor, a lawyer, it can be a police officer, whatever the case may be. Because you all know at some point, this career got an expiration date that we don't know about.
Yeah.
So I try to make sure that that they're aware that it's okay to have a plan B, just in case plan A doesn't work out. But I'm successful. You guys both are still very much so successful, although our career path may have not been what we have dreamed of, the ultimate dream.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, man. That's kind of what I want to get into. Like you said, you have a hand on the pulse of young athletes. Seeing you up there, taking bus trips, taking recruits, your guys up there. And we kind of touched on it, the NIL space nowadays. And that seems to be, we do Mailbag Monday where we get questions from just fans. And that seems to be a topic every week of the NIL is ruining this and recruits this and the transfer portal. Can you give us like your view of the recruiting situation in the country right now?
I like it. I actually love it. I may not like the window, and I'm more so speaking about what this bowl season, not just our game, but what this bowl season have presented us overall, with the transfer portal window as well as the recruiting window. That's terrible right now. But I do love the fact that, these kids are monetizing off their name, image, and likeness. So I don't know. I like the whole, I like everything about it. I like the fact that these kids are able to, help out, Aunt Jill, or send a little money back to grandma when needed. Or, for me, my dad traveled every game, and it wasn't traveled every game. I played all 4 years. He didn't miss home or away, and he didn't fly. He drove, and I would have loved to be in the space now to here go hotel money, here go flight. So. And I'm pretty sure it's other parents the same way, in this current day and age. So I actually like everything about it.
Yeah, 100%. Like a lot of people don't see that. They see the kids on the commercials and think, why does he need? Or they see the 4 kids in the country that are getting, $1 million deals, and they think, why does this kid need this and that? But they're not thinking about the regular, kid that parents need some gas money to.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I got my own training circuit, and I say it every day. It's kids who need it, right? So just them having a scholarship, and not having loans at the end, them having a little money in their pocket, maybe not $1 million, but let's say 10,000, it goes a long way. I think we all know the stories of, maybe not us, but maybe other schools where these kids aren't eating and they're on full scholarships. They're still hungry. But the fact that they get to, make a little money, on their own and, be able to eat or send money back to a family member, whatever the case may be. It's great. It was needed a long time ago. I wish I would have had it. But I'm glad that these kids are, monetizing off of it.
That's awesome. And then, we let you kind of talk, but one thing that we pride ourselves on here is obviously we have relationships with the university and the program and whatnot. But, when B and I got into this, we really wanted to make this a platform for former lettermen, just to get perspective, thoughts, all this stuff off their chest and give these fan bases, that recognize guys like you and us and Marty and all these guys we've had on, just give them a little update on the program, because I think this Letterman group here is extremely powerful. I think we're extremely tight. And that's one thing when we came up, I know we were tight in terms of you finishing up right when we got there, but just staying in touch. It's like, we don't have to talk every day. We see each other,
it's all love.
Yeah.
But we got a mutual respect, right? Like, it's like, this place is really special. And we wanted to give this podcast as a platform for us to just talk about our state of the program, a couple war stories here and there, whatever it may be. So I just wanted to give you a chance to kind of give that, state of the program, what you want to see moving forward. Maybe some pride stories from that 2012 year before, and then, we'll let you go. We appreciate your time. So
Yeah, I'm kind of going to piggyback just off something you just mentioned, and just about the camaraderie that we have, that brotherhood. Uh, the state of Penn State, I don't think they have that at no other university. As you mentioned, when I was leaving, you guys was coming in, but shit, you'd have thought that we all played together.
Right.
We went to training camp together, went to war together. That's the love that I have for you guys, and the love I have for these current guys. But just seeing Letterman in general, or current players, whenever I go back to state and we're in that Letterman's lounge, we're in the sideline together, or we're in a platform like this, man, it fills my heart. It just feel like, we have a bond that can never be broken regardless of what generation or what decade we played in. That's what it feel like. And this more sound like a recruiting pitch. But yeah,
man.
But shit, if you are a recruit and you happen to tap in, to this podcast, this is the best brotherhood for you. But as far as just war stories, man, that 2012 class, yeah, that class was, we were different in a lot of different ways. A lot of people like to say that we saved the program. I don't really look at it that way. I just felt like we were fulfilling, the purpose that we had set out, to do when we committed to Joe Paterno, regardless of all the the negative comments or negative feedback that he may have gotten or still getting. One thing I can say about that man is that he cared outside of football. I think that every Letterman that got a chance to play under Joe or met Joe, whatever the case may have been, they're all pretty successful for one reason. It's because of him. Like, he cared about the person that didn't have the shoulder pads and helmet on, which, everything that he teaches, I try to do the same thing with my boys. There's prime example with my current kids. But yeah, 2012, man, Bill O'Brien came in with that January right from the Patriots, and everything that transpired from spring ball to training camp where the news had broke, which was unexpected. We lost a ton of key pieces with Silas Red, Kyrie Ford. I'm probably missing a ton of other people, but we lost Justin Brown. Mm-hmm. We lost some pieces, but I think the one thing that kept everything together that goes unnoticed is, Bill O'Brien and himself. I think if it was any other coach that may have taken on that responsibility, unexpected responsibility, I'm not sure if Penn State has a program. Or maybe we have a program, but it's not, where we top 10 like we are now, top 15 each year. It was the respect and the love that we have gained for BOB in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we stayed. We stayed, as I mentioned, to fulfill the promise we had to Joe. We're going to be here all 3 or 4 years, however long it was. But the way Bill, made us feel from big brother, uncle, father, type of perspective, however you looked at him, it was good. Nothing against Joe, but being under Joe for 3 years, we go against these teams like Ohio State, and the Michigan States who were good at that time. We got a chance to go against Florida, LSU, and Alabama during that time span as well. They just always seemed like from a football IQ perspective, they were 10 times, just higher and just better than us. Just they schemes and schematics, everything. So when BOB came in and we started learning like football, I felt like we were learning football all over again. It was completely different. It was refreshing. I felt like I learned so much in a short period of time. I learned more under BOB that spring than I learned under, unfortunately, Joe, Tom Bradley, so they called Scrap, during my 3 years with him. So he was a huge reason why, it was so easy to make that decision, not to abandon the program. So easy for us to stay and, fight and, do whatever we need to do to win games, but, put ourselves in positions to, win a Big Ten championship that we wanted, although that was taken away from us.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Billy O.
That's what he don't
get enough credit, dude. He don't get enough credit, I think, probably now because, I don't know, his antics.
A lot of slack this past 2 weeks.
Yeah, but one thing about Bill, he's gonna keep it real with you. I think that may be the disconnect now with just generation and our generation.
Keep it that real now.
Yeah,
you just can't keep it that real, and the way he spoke to us, and he'll tell you, shit, Steph, you ain't going first round, you ain't going second round, and you 5'9", buck change. You made it. Everyone can't take that now, and I think we just had a previous story where Alabama's quarterback was told to change positions, and I mean, it's working out for him. But as you mentioned, coaches these days just gotta walk on eggshells.
Yeah,
I know. I say this all the time. I don't think Nick Saban could have done the job Bill did with that team. And then also, I said this to Marty. B and I have said this multiple times. Like, you guys set the standard for this 13 class, right? Like, I think we had the right group of kids that resonated from just the way we were brought up, the way we thought, the way we approached it. And, at least for me, I'm forever grateful for guys like you and Mods and McGloin, and how you, again, you didn't even talk about it that much. You said it once, and then all of your actions throughout that entire season, the start was kind of shitty, and the way you guys finished, and I think we're up at that Wisconsin game when you guys finished it, and like, it was just the best standard that could have been set from like you said, Big Brother, like from a Big Brother standpoint. We're like, man, like we gotta fucking keep this thing going, dude. Like that was our thought process. So,
bro,
I loved it, man.
We had a lot of alphas on that team. And I know people look at the main guys like the Martys, the Zordish of the world, but shit, man, Gerald Hodges, Jordan Hill.
We got a good GM.
We had a lot. But we had a lot of alphas on that team where I felt like we'd have been good regardless of who was leading that ship. We had a lot of alphas.
That's what we talked about it last week with Mike Gesicki. And I don't want to dive into it now because we had you long enough, but that's what it takes. I mean, for me, it's about the guys in the locker room grabbing it by the horns and saying, this is what we got to do. And I don't care how we got to do it. This is what we got to do. I'll just leave it at that. And then back to
do you feel like we're missing that with this current team, or?
And that's what we're missing something. That's what it is. Because we see it. The talent's there. The depth's there. We can talk about all this crap that we always talk about, recruiting classes and all that. That's, as you said, that's fine and dandy. Dude runs 4.2 and he's 6'5". But when the shit hits the fan, who's going to be there on 3rd and 6, whether we're talking defense or offense, whatever the scenario, we know, who's going to rally the troops and say, they had us in the first half. They had us all game, but we're down 10 points. This is a game. Yeah. Let's do it. I think, and it doesn't always have to be the quarterback. I know that's the face of the program, and you'd love to see it, but it doesn't always have to be the quarterback.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen, during that game where someone on defense or offense just fought that unit, whether it's offense or defense or the team, and kind of like a Marty, just get in their face, trying to rally them up, instill some confidence, however it was needed. It could have happened. I didn't see it, but I would have loved to have seen that, against Ohio State and Michigan, and especially against Ole Miss.
Right. I mean, those are games you need it.
I think that's it. I think this offseason they need to find a couple war daddies who want the ball as the clock's expiring and they want to take that last shot. Yeah. And they need to find it. And I hope that this offseason with Chuck and those guys, they find those guys and they understand that you can lead by example all you want, but there's times where you gotta rally the troops, and then you gotta be the guy to go make a play and do what you were saying, where you make everybody else around you better. You make that play, and it doesn't matter what play's called. It doesn't matter who's lined up where. You're the guy that grabs the bull by the horns and makes a play, because football is unique. You can't do that for 4 quarters now. There might be 2 or 3 guys on the planet that have ever played the game who could do it whenever they wanted to for 4 quarters. But guys who are special do it when they need it. And I thought that, to your point, that's something that for 2024, I think needs to change. So
yeah, we just, like I said, man, that 2012 class, we had a lot of alphas.
Yep.
And probably classes before that, and I'm pretty sure, your teams as well. But we need guys that's not afraid, to let Drew, and I'm not picking on Drew by any chance. Drew is, Drew's the guy right now.
Right.
You take the shit quarterback.
Yeah, get your shit together. I know,
What you sign up for.
Yeah, I can do the same with Marty, G, Jordan Hill, to the point where if you're not getting to your damn hook curl, I won't let you know. And they do the same thing with me. And no matter who was the captain of the team, nothing like that. We need guys like that where we hold everyone accountable.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure your team, and I know we had that on ours.
That's what I was going to say to Hack's point. Those war daddies, and I learned this in the league, there's guys on the team that maybe are afraid to step into that light. And I'm here to tell you now, even if you're an incoming freshman, you may catch some slack in the beginning, like, yo, who the hell are you? But if you got it, you got it. If you can galvanize the guys, you got it. Obviously, you have to back it up in your play, as Hack said. But don't be afraid to be that guy if you feel it in your spirit. Because I was there at one point, like, I want to say something, I haven't made enough plays yet. Now it's money. Oh, these guys are making more money than me or whoever. I'm sure that all plays a part. But when it comes to being on the field, don't be afraid to be that guy. I know there's some guys. I've spoken to a good amount of guys. Don't be afraid to be that guy. And to as your point, you said too, maybe there's a star player that isn't that guy and you feel like, you don't play as much. If you need to tell him, bro, get in your gap or you got to kick out, whatever, don't be afraid to say it because we all got to roll. We're all rolling in the same way.
Yeah, we got one goal, and that's the win.
Yeah, exactly.
Win the day, win a play, win a rep, whatever the case may be, whatever it looks like during that time frame. But no one should be afraid to tell Hack to get his shit together if you need to.
Right. Steph, man, we appreciate you. Man, this is definitely going to have you back. Got to have you back as we get to this 2024 season. We got a long year, folks. Hack and I will be here every Monday, Tuesday. So a lot to talk about, more alumni, more dogs, more alphas to kind of preach on what needs to be done. So appreciate you, brother. Best of luck. Be safe in your travels and wish you a prosperous 24.
Thank you, man. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me on.
That was our guy, Steph Morris. Can't say enough about him, bro. He's one of the best. And like you said, we'll definitely have to get him back. But that was good stuff. Top to bottom, love what he's doing with Prime Example. Love his opinions on the team. He's a very knowledgeable guy. And, I appreciated that conversation. So
definitely.
With that, we've chewed up quite some time, but as I promised in the mailbag, we're gonna get into this one. So we're gonna jump straight to it because there's pretty lengthy ones, and I'm sorry for you guys trying to listen to this on your commute to work. That may be an hour. You may have to carry this over into your commute back home. So
yeah, there we go.
B, how about I'll handle Twitter.
Cool.
You handle Instagram. I'll jump on Twitter first here and grab from some of these beginning ones because
kick it off.
I appreciate the back and forth, by the way, as well. I mean, there's some good lengthy conversations going into the comments on IG, on X. Sorry, not Twitter. I've misspoken again. On X, formerly known as Twitter. Just the back and forth. This is what we're looking for. We really appreciate it. But let me find my guy here. Mike Scatena. At Mike Scatena. If I said that wrong, I apologize again. My mom was an English teacher, but I didn't really quite get all that. Offensively, what are the biggest areas of improvement necessary? Route concepts, adaptability, coaching, meaning execution of or something else. And then defensively, how worried should we be about the corner spot? Is there enough time for them to develop? Was this a Dex at DC problem?
It's a good one. I'll kick it off. Well, I'll start with defense.
Yeah, you jump defense. I'll take the offensive side.
Cool bet. And Steph made a great point, and maybe I was being a little too harsh on the guys that stepped up because obviously, I expect greatness no matter who's out there. Mm-hmm. But he made some great points, DB, the communication, and things of that nature. Maybe that alludes to the moving pieces Franklin was talking about. But no, all to say, I'm not worried. We keep talking about we have the talent, and they just have to be out there and get reps. I mean, as much as we like for a guy that's played, he's played all season, but maybe not meaningful snaps.
Mm-hmm.
As much as we'd like him to just, plug and play and be, the next Joey Porter Jr. or whoever, it doesn't really happen like that. I can speak from my own experience. I started the last game of freshman year against Wisconsin, and I was out there just flying around, making plays. But, at the end of the game, Coach Butler, I remember him saying, I know you didn't know what the hell you were doing, but so I don't put too much stock. I'm not worried about those guys at all. These snaps that they got are invaluable. I'll say that. Yeah. These corners will never forget number 9 from Ole Miss and how he moved and the things he did to get open. That only bode well for the future. And obviously they have to hone in. As a corner, you have to have a short memory, but keeping that memory somewhere is necessary, because those were good receivers, and you should definitely keep that in memory bank because those will probably be some of the better guys they play. So not worried about the cornerback position, not at all, really. Really like all those guys, and that's going to happen at corner. You're going to get beat. You're going to make plays, and in the future, they will get theirs more than they got. Out of the words of Marshawn.
There you go. And I'll echo. I think that there's plenty of time for them to develop. You got spring, you got training camp. I think it's going to be important to make those as competitive as possible. But I think that there's plenty of time. And then with the Dex at DC thing, what you got anything on that, B?
It is tough because you're not going to roll out a whole new defensive playbook. You're going to roll with what the guys been doing all year, even though you may not have been calling the plays. That's not really going to change. And I know we said we like to, maybe I would say this is why I'm not a big proponent of the heavy blitz. And I've been kind of saying that for the past 2 years, but me myself, I kind of like a little bit of read reaction, but I don't pay too much stock in the Dex being DC. Yeah. The same playbook. Guys just have to be ready to step up when the number's called, and obviously, the more reps, the better they'll be.
Yeah. And then I'll jump on the offensive side. I think the biggest area of improvement, and I think should be a major focus for Andy Koltanecki. And I heard one of his interviews, him talking about it. He talks about being a teacher and then, making sure he maximizes what his players do well and putting them in positions to be successful, which I cannot echo how much I loved hearing that, because I think that that's obviously an extremely fundamental concept, but one that oftentimes gets overlooked by coaches every year and ultimately results in them either being fired or, reevaluating things. So, I'm happy that he has that baseline. And I think that is going to be huge because I've said it all year. Our receiving room caught a lot of slack, right? And just because we didn't have a guy who can line up and win 8-9 times out of 10 one-on-one and separate in those types of settings doesn't mean that we don't have a deep, talented room. I think we do. I think we have some kids who can play there. But I think just their strengths didn't necessarily match what we were trying to do in terms of creating explosive plays. We ran post over a gazillion times off of play action. We ran just straight up go routes and chucked it up a gazillion times. That's not their strong suit. And I think AK's job this offseason is finding out what pieces he has, because there is still some potential from the transfer portal, and I, may or may not be hinting at a kid from the guys wearing scarlet and gray, but there may be some pieces that help with that. But ultimately, I think it's going to be about finding what these guys do well, what Drew sees well, and putting them in positions where they can be successful, given what they do. So for me, I think that be that from a concept standpoint, from an adaptability standpoint, all that. I think that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Because again, when it comes to like talent gathering, like we're there now.
Right.
It's just about execution, and I think that there's times where they needed to execute better and, better and so on and so forth. Right but I mentioned there always is going to be that. So, for me, I think as a coaching staff, you just have to eliminate that or eliminate the coaching concepts and the coaching in terms of how they put these kids in positions as an excuse, right? And then you can really get to the root cause of some of these issues from an execution standpoint.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And just to echo something you said earlier about, we're talking about Jackson Dart and those guys getting in a rhythm. And we've talked about it all year with opposing quarterbacks and opposing teams. Obviously, quarterback needs to get in a rhythm, but that comes hand in hand with getting some of maybe your top two receivers in rhythm as well. Like you said, it's not post over, but a simple hitch, quick release, get the ball in his hands. He feels it, he gets hit. That can get a guy going a little bit to where, you're more advantageous to throw to one-on-one or whatever it may be. So that's kind of riding the hot hand. That's what you said. Jackson Dart guys and Lane Kiffin, they started riding the hot hand. Obviously, we had young corners, the best receiver, that goes a long way. So I'll roll that question kind of into this one. It kind of makes sense. This is on IG from Brock W. Chambers. He says, big picture-ish question here. After last night's Rose Bowl game with Michigan going to the national championship game and being favored, how is Penn State this far behind them on the field? I saw a graphic a while back showing blue chip ratios from the past three recruiting classes, and it had Michigan and Penn State right next to each other. What is missing from this program to get to a higher level? And that is very much big picture, and everything we've kind of said throughout this episode and all season, but I think it comes down to the competitive nature we've kind of been talking about, tenacity, dog mentality, whatever you want to call it. I think that needs to be heightened in everyone, even if you think, you were a big bad dude, coaching staff, player, whoever it was, it needs to be heightened more, And I know we preach a competitive mindset and everything like that, but I think it needs to be taken up a notch. Similar to what I say about Drew and kind of not knowing what it really meant to be a starting quarterback. Now he knows. Now the whole team knows. You played against a national championship contender. And obviously we don't know what those guys are doing day to day, but you've seen it, and you can learn a lot from that to say, okay, I was ready for that game, but compared to what I played against, I can take it up a notch, Yeah. And that has to be in everything, the preparation to the execution that you just said. It's not just executing. It's I got to kill this dude every snap in my execution, with my aggressiveness and things of that nature. And I think, like we said, it's not the talent. Clearly, the numbers show by these blue chip ratings, it's not the talent, So,
yeah. I just want to see Coach. I think Coach Franklin's done a good job of all of that, right? And I think the next step is and I'm not saying we don't have it, but I just feel like breeding a championship mentality, like we're doing what championship teams do when we play teams with lesser talent or teams that we're supposed to beat. I'm not even going to say lesser talent. Like with teams that we're supposed to beat, we're winning those games. Like that's gone, right? So I feel like that's a step, right, that you have to take. And now this offseason, it's Coach Franklin, it's the coordinators, and then it matriculates down to the rest of the team of the mentality of, are we there? I don't know. And you talked about this with the 2016 team. I think it really truly does come grassroots from within. And it's no. We're here. We may not have won it. Right. None of that matters. We're going to win these games that we're supposed to win. And now we need to make sure that when the big games come up, when Washington, when USC, when Michigan comes up next year, we need to step up to the plate and understand that this game means more. And we need to what was the quote that Mike said? When your best is required, that Bill Belichick says. Anyway, you have to be at your best when your best is required. And I think that mentality for those types of games needs to be spewing out of the Lash football building for that week. So, and I think the players have a great opportunity to do that. You know what I mean? I think Franklin expects that, right? For the most part. And I think the players have a great opportunity this offseason to do that. And, I want to just give a shout out to Kevin at Kevin0914 on X that said, what is the path forward and action items in order to matriculate from a good program to an elite program? And I just wanted to give him some love there as we answered that question. So, Brandon, this one,
for me,
we kind of touched on it, so we'll just dive into the hotness. We got Will Gamble at Will Gamble 15. How big of a problem is Drew? He seemingly hasn't developed at all this year and actually seemed to regress in the Peach Bowl.
I won't say he regressed. Obviously, I'm not sure what his numbers weren't great. I think it's tough to say if a kid has a bad game, he regressed. Because obviously the offense as a whole was just so up and down. And like I said, we touched on it. I think you just got to be able to, for his sake and obviously the team and offensive sake, ride the momentum. And that comes with, throwing your punches and not being afraid to make a mistake, like you said. Because, no one's expecting him to go 50 for 50 and complete every pass. But when I watch the competing teams all week, the playoff teams and the other New Year's Bowl games. And I know you can talk more into this. I'm no QB guru, but there's something about taking that hitch step and just driving the ball down the middle. Obviously, there's accuracy, putting it at a certain place, but I don't, just letting it rip to a certain degree. It's just let it rip.
He does it sometimes.
And that's, we see it and it's like, okay, that was a strike. He just threw a strike over the middle of Tyler Warren on a bang aid or whatever, dig route. And it's not always going to be open. You've seen that. It's not always going to be pretty. And maybe that's somewhere he can progress from the coach's standpoint of like, is how we're practicing, is it too pretty for him? Do we need to muddy it up and kind of, I know we've touched on this, like, the guy's not going to break open free and have a ton of separation. Yeah, we hope it happens, but in practice, we need to, make it more game-like simulation, put it that way. And obviously, we don't know what's going on in practice, but I think that's where we can see he can see strides made. And then it comes down to his mechanics and all that. I'm not getting into all that, but it goes hand in hand.
I think technically he's fine. I mean, listen, my biggest thing with Drew is like, we haven't seen him win a game for us. Like truly single-handedly win a game for us. Like he hasn't had the opportunities he's had have been against really good football teams, and that kind of sucks because it does. But like I think when you're looking at a guy like that and the expectations and all that stuff, like it goes back to that mentality of like, it may not be the fourth quarter. It may not be the last 5 minutes of the game. It may be a drive in the second quarter where you're coming out a little, or we'll use the Peach Bowl for an example, coming out of halftime after you didn't really do what you were supposed to do before half in terms of the opportunity you had, and you go 3 and out, like there's certain points in a game where you create a spark, you lead a big drive, you make a big time throw that results in a touchdown or something like that. And it just breeds energy into the offense. And I feel like every opportunity he had this year to do that, it didn't necessarily work, right? Like some of them were in kind of cleanup time. So I just really want to, for him, like obviously not press it. And I hope that we're not in a ton of those situations, but like those are the types of things that get stripes with not just your coaching staff, but more importantly with the other guys on the team, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you could probably talk about it. I can think of a couple games that I had where I may not have been playing great, but then there was 3 or 4 drives that got me in rhythm, and then it was on. And I felt like you guys started playing better and back and forth. Like, I'm just trying to think of those moments where it's like you put on the war daddy hat at that position, and you're no longer just the quiet, rosy cheeked kid that just does his job and smiles. You know what I mean? Like you have a little trick to you. So I think I think that's where his growth can be, right? Because it is, to your point, it is going to be imperfect. And like, like I said, there's no like elevator to the top, right? Like you have to take the stairs. You're going to get punched in the mouth. Like week to week, there's going to be different things that happen throughout a game that don't go perfect, and people are going to overanalyze. So there's just that time when you have to take advantage of it to help your guys win games, right? And I think that's the biggest thing we can see with Drew.
And no plays may jump off to you because I think they're not big plays. Obviously, he had a deep ball touchdown. That's always a great play. But I think those plays that you're talking about are the 2nd and 6 slants that you rip in there or whatever. It's more of a simple play, but once again, you get the receiver in rhythm. You get the tight end in rhythm. You get the coaching staff who's calling the plays in rhythm. You always said, Drew and the OC have to be like this. To where he's feeling what you're feeling and like, okay, I'm going to get this kid moving now. I'm going to get him moving, get a little pass here. And I think those are the plays that, once again, build his confidence, which builds the team's confidence. And, not unfortunately, because we touched on it, it's what you sign up for. When you're the QB, things ride your emotions. The team rides off your emotions.
Yep.
Like I said, you don't have to be, Tim Tebow, blood down your face. But, when you let a ball rip, whether it's incomplete or not, obviously with accuracy, but there's still something to kind of just throwing your punches. You're not going to hit everyone. But when you throw your punches, the crowd feels it, the team feels it. And I think that's when you speak, that's kind of what I feel from a defensive standpoint. Drew out there slinging it. Drew's out there, dotting him up, whatever it may be. He's running a little bit, which he has capability of. That's what I see, at least.
Yeah, I'll take a. This will be my last point for this question, but I'll take a quote that I heard from Trent Dilfer back when I was 16 years old at the Elite 11 that stuck with me. The best quarterbacks are thermostat leaders. They have the ability to change the temperature of the room, and it may be with a throw. It may be with your leadership qualities. It may be with something, but they are like a thermostat, and they have that power within the team across the board to change the temperature of the room when it's needed. 100%. And that's where I think Drew can make his strides. And I think subsequently when he starts taking that role into account, it's going to make everything else easier. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
100%.
That's 100%. What I thought. Again, a lot of credit to my guy Trent Dilfer with that one. That one stuck with me for 3 years.
That's a good one, man.
All right, B, what do you got?
Oh man, there's a lot of good ones. Some I do not have the answer for. How do we step up in NIL? That is above my pay grade. I do not know.
We'll keep trying to figure out our ways here at Mercury. Just make sure you guys keep tuning in, liking, sharing, retweeting, and we'll see what we can continue to give you guys.
There we go. We have that's not really a question. To anyone that's kind of, and I'm not, throwing punches at you, but we get a lot of things about the landscape of college football and what it's turning into. One, we do not have any control of that. Two, there's no indication that it is going remotely anywhere back to what it was. So you got to buckle up and go for the ride like everyone else. It's part of what I think makes college football so fun to watch. Whether you're a fan, super fan like we all are, I mean, it's a journey. This is a journey. I got one from Hesketh_86. I feel like in-game coaching adjustments in big games is truly where this coaching staff falls short. Would like to know what you guys' opinion is on that topic. And I see a lot of this. I see a lot of people. I think Peyton Manning had a quote actually on one of his simulcasts maybe a year or two ago. He said, like, I don't buy in the second half adjustments. That's all hoopla. And Peyton Manning is the GOAT, one of the GOATs. Omaha Productions. Appreciate all you guys are doing. Our guy Hannah Biondi actually works for them.
There you go.
Killing it, but I could not disagree with that statement he made when I first heard it. Kind of leading to this, it's kind of hard because we're not in the locker room, but I wholeheartedly remember and believe in second half adjustments. And it may not be, you're not changing your whole scheme, you're not changing a new playbook, but there is room for slight adjustments, whether it's personnel-wise, individually, how we're going to play things. I remember the Big Ten Championship, Wisconsin was killing us off this. I think the big run Corey Clement had for a touchdown, which is off this like off-tackle kind of power, I think it was. But for whatever reason, they were just blocking it slightly different that we had never seen before, and it was giving us fits the whole first half. And it just turns into, hey, don't spill this block, box it in or something like that. So where it gives the linebacker a chance to get over top or X, Y, and Z, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So there's slight adjustments in there, but I think it is twofold. You can't put all that harp on the coaching staff because it takes, I want to say high IQ, but players and coaches to be on the same page enough to make those slight adjustments. I'll say that. And it's not always the case. I don't know, it's not always the case. I'll just say that. You can't always just say, hey, do this now. Even though we practiced this all week, I want you to do this. We were doing 2 weeks ago. Right. You can't quite do that with every player. So
right.
I'm sure adjustments are happening, but, I think it's maybe at a smaller level than we'd be able to notice.
Yeah. I think what I'm a big believer in is having your kind of babies, right? Like from an identity standpoint that you can fall back on, where because each week, and I feel like a lot of coaches fall into this where, they are game planning, a specific way of blocking something based upon the look that you get. And sometimes it's a look that, you don't see a bunch and they want to make sure they get the right play call and all this. Like, I feel like that's so hard to do. And oftentimes when you start getting into those types of things, that's where you start seeing like some miscommunication, some kind of like not a lot of flow on offense, and it's tough. I'm just a firm believer in like your adjustments might be, okay, this is what they're giving us. It's not what we expected. We had a whole game plan written up for this. And now if you don't have like your base of who you're going to be that you can execute against anything, then it's really hard to try to adjust anything other than going back to that, right? Yeah. So like I think it's less of an adjustment thing and like being a master of your handful of concepts that you can have answers to if the defense is giving you fits. Right. At least I'm speaking from an offensive side of the ball.
Right. No, same thing.
Right? You know what I mean? Where you can fall back on something that is like, okay, we've repped this against literally every look. I know where my answers are. This is, I just have to understand that this is what the coverage on the back end is, or this is the pressure they're giving me, and this is how I have to protect it. And then boom, boom, boom. Like this is how we execute it against anything, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's more so like having your babies that you can go back to, and then, if you need to make adjustments, adjust at halftime when you have time to talk through things, right? So,
yeah. And a good point off that is adjustments can be made, but those adjustments could cause more problems than the original, which is a great point. Right. The opposite of what I said in the Wisconsin game, it could easily be, hey, we're going to attack this block. We're going to change the way we're attacking this block. Yeah. And then one player gets it, that message is not relayed to the other player. And now the cornerbacks, now two guys are in the same gap or things like that. That is a very, very great point to where you fall back on your basics, to your point. Always fall back to your basics.
Yeah.
Good question, though. There's a lot of optics. I know not everyone, which is why we appreciate the question. Not everyone played and maybe see the things the same way, but that's why we're here.
Yeah. All right, let's go to my guy, Farzad, Farziness on X. I'm going to throw mine in case it's still open. It was still open when you sent this, brother. What's the bigger missing piece for Penn State football? Leadership from Franklin or leadership from the players? We've talked about this a little bit, but I think it's something that we can just hammer home really quick and give my guy some love.
Man, there's no one finger to point. there's no finger to point. Leadership comes from everyone in small different ways. Like we said, I'm always going to lean a little more to the players because, coaches always say, we love to be out there. And that's how I feel, as a viewer now. It's, this is also for any player, guys that listen that may think we're being harsh. It's not that. We come from love because we want the success for you. Because like we said with Steph, we literally are an extension of you to a certain point. So, we want to see guys grab it by the horns and take ownership of the team. And I think all coaches want that too. Coaches can only take you so far. This is what I believe in. Put you in the right positions on the field, yes. But even on the field and everything else, it's on you guys, man. It's on the players to take reins on what you want to do. How, the game tape is your resume. What you're going to put out there is ultimately your name on it, is my opinion. Sorry, somebody reference your mustache in the comment. I won't say.
Yeah, I love the mustache, dude. I'm going to keep it for 2 more weeks, and then it's gone. 2 more? 2 more weeks, yep.
Okay.
Yep. You get the last 2. Rip them from IG.
Okay.
Last
2. Transfer portal stuff. I mean, I can't quite touch on. I mean, we don't know what the aggressiveness of it is. Are we offering every single one? Is it selective? I know we see a few names out there, but that's tricky, really, in my opinion. Yeah. Who knows? I'll go with Collins J 1967. Ultimately, he says he believes, in his opinion, to beat elite teams, you have to have a mobile quarterback. I don't wholeheartedly agree with that. I think you need to be athletic, and I think Drew is athletic enough. We've seen him move. I don't think you need to. And I will say, I've been saying this all year, a few of these zone reads, he just has to keep. If we're going to keep that going, he has to keep it just for tape's sake. I mean, and it may be a 4th and 1 where they least expect it, he keeps it. But I'm tired of seeing these crashing ends just, go straight to the dive or the zone.
Take away the backside A gap cut.
Yeah, I mean,
yep.
More times than none, he could easily probably truck some of these DNs. Drew's a big boy.
Big cat.
If he really wanted to. You want to give your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I don't necessarily buy that. I agree with you. I mean, and the thing is like the whole like athletic thing. Like, I'd say 99% of these kids are way more athletic than anyone really thinks. Yeah. Even the pocket passers with air quotes. So, yeah, I mean, does a mobile quarterback help? Does it cause different problems? For sure, right? It definitely does. But I don't think it's like in order to have success, you have to be that. I mean, look at Michael Penix and look at Quinn Ewers. Like they're great throwers of the football. That's what they do. If they use their legs, they use their legs to extend the play to make plays with their arms, right? Like, and then you have guys like Jalen Milroe who are really athletic threats, and that's one thing, and whatever, right? But there's not a ton of Michael Vicks walking around the face of the earth, so it's like, I don't quite buy that. I think Drew's athletic enough, and to your point, B, I think that there's things that we can do from a scheme standpoint that can help alleviate those problems, or present more problems for the defense in the case that you.
Yeah, that's all I really got. I mean, a lot of these things we touched on in some form or fashion. A lot of people are just kind of venting, which I get.
Yeah, I will say that I love the back and forth. On X, there's a ton of back and forth, and we here at the Pocket and at State Media do appreciate that, and we'll dive in there and get into it.
We got a long season, folks, chiming in. We got a long season. We're going to cover a lot. Definitely going to be relying on you guys for a lot more comments, and we'll pick and choose, some of these discussions we take points from. So definitely appreciate it. And the way I see it, I'm always a glass half full type of guy. I mean, obviously there was no national championship. I was, one of the first proponents of saying, we're playoff bound. but there's room for improvement. And, you just got to believe we have everything it takes. I get it. Not the best showing to cap the season off, but 10-3, I'll take it. Success. It's not an ultimate success, but it's still success. You can't knock it. Like these kids and these coaches didn't do anything. And, that's just kind of how I'm leading off into this 24, man. It's the expectations are going to come right back. The press and everything's going to come right back. And ultimately, it comes down to what happens on the field. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, like I said, I think there's going to be a lot more noise and a lot less roses being handed out. And I think that if the team and if the program takes it the right way, I'm excited about 24. Everyone loves an underdog, and everyone loves a dog that comes back after it had to run with its tail between its legs. And I'm not saying that's where we're at, to your point. We did win 10 games, but the feeling is the sky's falling. So as the sky falls, you can sit there and weather that storm and you do it the right way. It presents a great opportunity. So I'm excited to see how these guys – I'm excited to get up there for spring ball, see how these guys are attacking it. I'm excited to see how training camp goes. And I think they got a great opportunity. And kind of like what Steph said, what you mentioned before, like there's some new dogs in the hunt, and one of them's playing for a national championship game, for a national championship. So
man.
It's going to be fun. So I'm excited. I hope these guys and this program takes it the right way. And it's a great opportunity for them if they take it as the B-Bell glass half full approach. So
got to, man. Got to. Shoot, man, with those boys and up north and blue, whatever we call them, playing for the Natty, what's your opinion? Who you got? Michigan versus UW.
Dude, man, well, and I don't think we can go wrong either way because we do have, I'm going to count him as a representative of the Big Ten.
That's true.
We will not have an SEC champion this year for the first time in quite some time, which I think is good. Listen, man, I really think it's going to be the Michael Penix versus that Michigan Wolverine defensive front. I think they did a great job of creating a lot of problems for Milroe in that game. So if Washington can figure out a way how to protect it up a little bit, Penix is deadly. He's deadly.
I want to see those receivers versus those DBs to that regard.
Yeah.
On the flip side, Washington needs to get pressure. Obviously, stop the run. I think they can do a decent enough job, but they need to get pressure on Michigan. That's what Bama did not do, which was a proponent of the blueprint we did to slow down Michigan.
Yeah.
We got after those tackles and McCarthy. So UW needs to be able to do that because McCarthy, tip my hat off to him, same the way we did the Dart. I mean, I think he deserves a little more credit. Well, I deserve to give him more credit than what I normally do. When he's back there and, he has time and things of that nature, he can get the job done pretty well. He has some zips in there. I know Harbaugh says he's the best quarterback, I think, in college football history, but that's a guy championing his guy, and he's playing like it. Like we said, that confidence, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
They're playing like it. I'll take – it's hard to go against Michigan. I don't know. That defense is real right now.
I'll take the underdog, man. I'm or not the underdog, or maybe they are. I don't know. I'm not, but I'll take – my odds are with Washington, dude. They're going to turn it into a shootout, and I don't think Michigan can win a shootout with them.
Yeah, right. How crazy would it be? Last year, the Pac-12, they go out they get a national champion.
Yeah. Be nuts. That's a good team.
That as a Big Ten.
It's a good team. I had Texas winning it all.
I did too.
Personally. But that Washington team's a good team.
Yeah. We'll see. But that's all we got this week, guys. Once again, big shout out to Mercury, State Media. Everyone stay chimed in, pushing a lot of content out there. Hack is running the show. Don't forget about the merch. New stuff will be coming. the Pocket merch. Stay tapped into all the shows State Media has going on. A lot of great content. And as Hack said, I know we both plan on getting up there, being more involved, spring camp and things of that nature. So just look forward to everything we got coming here from the Pocket and State Media, Mercury as a whole. That'll be all. Also, make sure you follow State Media. Make sure you follow Hack and I on X, Instagram. Stay chimed in, stay tuned in, and we'll be back for more next week. That'll be all.
Subscribe on YouTube. Do it all.
There you go. Like, subscribe. Make sure you do all that.
Yeah.
And that'll be all from us at the Pocket.
Appreciate it. Happy 2024.
Oh, yeah. Whew.